Good afternoon, everybody. Wow, you've had 2 days and you're still here. This is marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. I'm going to talk to you this afternoon about 2 things. The first thing I'm going to talk about will be the results of the survey, but I'm also going to talk about the organizations where you work and how to improve their performance and how to bring a sense of values even into the classroom. I've been working in this field for 15 years now and invented a way of measuring consciousness, as I put it, by mapping values. And this thing is taken off all over the world. I'll give you a few bit of data on that in a minute. But every one of you here probably works in an organization. And your capacity to deliver your passion to the customer, the child, to whatever it is you want to give your gift, is dependent on your ability for that culture in that organization to be high performing. You don't want to have a toxic culture like we have in the NHS. You don't want to have a toxic culture which so many of our educational establishments have. And what I'm going to show you with an example is a cultural values assessment for a school here in Devon. And I want to show you the values alignment. This is a really good example, and I want to show you that. Because these tools I'm going to put before you are available to all of you. And although the mainstream of our business is working with the leaders and the senior people in major banks, in major organizations all over the world, we also want to make a contribution to children and to the environments where they are and to the organizations in which those children are being educated. So I just say that at the beginning, just to give you an idea about what I'm going to be talking about. So, valuing our children's education has 2 meanings, not just valuing the education, but what are the values that are being put forth through the educational system. So, what do? We measure the consciousness of organizations by mapping values. And what I've underlined here is the most important thing. We've developed a specific set of assessments for mapping the values of schools and even in classrooms. And for more information, you go to valuescenter.com. So, this is what we've been doing over 15 years. We have a core team of 20 people in 3 countries. We've got 30 people all over the world who are training in these methodologies. We've been trained over 4,000 people to use these tools, and some of them in the education system. We've done over 6,000 organizational assessments. We've mapped the values of 26 nations, and most recently, the UK and the United Arab Emirates. I mean, I could spend 2 or 3 hours going on about this, but I'm not going to. But maybe just the last thing you might want to pay attention to, because you could actually do this, we just developed what we call our personal values assessment. And since we introduced it 6 months ago, 10,000 people have done it, and it's free. Wow, there's not much free going on these days, is there? But go to valuescenter.com/PVA, personal values assessment, and do your values analysis. You get the feedback in 2 minutes. And maybe do it with your spouse. And maybe do it with your children. And then compare the results. And you get little exercises to do in there too. Anyhow, enough on that. What are values? Well, basically, they're a shorthand method of describing our individual and collective motivations. Now, values can be positive, or as we call them, potentially limiting. So positive values would be trust and integrity, passion, clarity, honesty, the things that we want to instill into our children. But then we have these potentially limiting values which actually hold us back. That's why we call them potentially limiting. Power, blame, greed, status, jealousy, being liked. Now, I call these values because these values cause us to behave in certain ways. When we're blaming other people, we are behaving that way because we want to look good in front of somebody, or we want to avoid punishment. And so what we're doing is important to us. We value it, but it is a limiting value. So positive values and limiting values. Just make a note of that because it's important in the next part of what I'm going to say. So why are values important? At any given moment in time, the values that are most important to us are a reflection of our unmet basic needs, as Maslow called them, our deficiency needs, or our growth needs. These are the needs associated with the stage of psychological development that we've reached. So what we value, our needs, are the principal drivers of our behaviors and actions. And we see that throughout all of the organizations that we work with. And so if we could measure these values, we could then, and present the results back, as I'm going to show you, we could start new conversations. You see, new conversations bring about transformation. And in fact, it's the only thing that does bring about a transformation. Imagine, just for a moment, that you're having difficulty with your spouse or with a child. And it goes on and on. And what you need is a new conversation. And when you have that new conversation, if it's the right conversation, transformation will happen. And what our tools do, they permit new conversations to take place that have never happened before within organizations. We have a whole suite of surveys for individual leaders as well. And those new conversations bring about, through a coaching process, bring about a transformation in that person. And something that you should remember, the culture of an organization, in other words, your ability to be in a high-performance organization, is a reflection. The culture is a reflection of the consciousness of the leader. Organizations don't transform, people do. And so in order to transform an organization, its effectiveness, individuals have to transform it. So if you're the leader of an organization, just be aware that the effectiveness of your organization is a reflection of who you are, your values and beliefs. These things don't happen by chance. Culture is a reflection of the leader, or it is a reflection of the legacy of past leaders who have embedded their values in the systems and processes. And that's what we see in our large organizations. And that's one of the reasons that many of them are so dysfunctional. Okay, onwards now. Hopefully, yes. So what are our basic needs and growth needs? Well, as we start at the level of survival, it's about satisfying our physiological needs for security, staying alive and keeping your body healthy. At the next level, the relationship level, it's about satisfying your emotional need for belonging and protection and connection. And then satisfying your emotional need to be recognized for your skills, talents, and qualities. And as children grow through the different stages, they pass through these psychological levels of growth. And then we get, finally, as an adult, we get into this level 4, the transformation level, where we satisfy our need for autonomy, freedom, independence, and adventure. And of course, that can also show up at the younger levels, but it must always be safe and secure, as we heard earlier. Once we've satisfied that autonomy and need for freedom and independence, we then need to look deep inside us to find out what our true values are and live authentically, finding meaning and purpose in our lives. And what has impressed me the short time that I've been here this afternoon is I've been listening to people who are passionate about what they do. They're living at this level of internal cohesion. They've brought their ego and their soul into alignment, and they are living their purpose. And we want all our children to be like that too. We want to create the environments where they can do that. And we need to then create the environments where you, adults, can bring out your purpose And be encouraged to find a sense of fulfillment by living out the passions of your soul. In a recent book I wrote called What My Soul Told Me, I talk about what is a soul, and I talk about what the soul comes to do. It comes to lead a values-driven life and a purpose-driven life. And what I heard in the conversations underlying at a deep level was some of that. Wanting to lead a values and purpose-driven life. And we want that for our children. So let me get on, because I'm dwelling too much here. After we've found our sense of purpose, we want then to be able to make a difference in the world. What's the point of finding meaning, if you like, and your sense of purpose if you can't make a difference? And then finally, as making a difference becomes a way of life, you feel this deep sense of service to humanity and the planet. In fact, there's nothing left for you to do in the world but to give the gift that your soul brought into this life. So, let's first look at the results. You all did this survey. We asked 3 questions, or actually several, but here are the first 3 questions. Select 10 following values and behaviors that reflect who you are. Select 10 values and behaviors that reflect how you see schools in the UK currently operating, and select 10 of the values, behaviors you most like to see in the schools of the UK. So now get ready for being shocked. On the left-hand side here, we have your personal values. These are the top 10. 177 people participated. You said 80 people said creativity was one of your top values. 71 said making a difference. 70 said caring. And so you here have the top 10 values. And here are they plotted on that diagram I just showed you. The diagram that shows the levels of consciousness. In the middle, we have what you see in the current school system. A focus on targets, bureaucracy, results, top-down pressure, adult agenda, stress, authoritarian, control, long hours. Only one positive value here. It's this blue dot. All of these are limiting values. And most of these limiting values occur at the level of self-esteem, the level of performance. How would you like to work in a place like that? You do! Or you're in that system. Not very funny, is it? And then over here, we have what you want. Child-centered, creativity, importance of play, passion for learning, empowerment, etc. Just read through all of these. And look, there are no matching values between your personal values and what you see in the culture of the school system. There's 2 matching values in the desired culture and your personal values. That's the creativity and the well-being. And these come out here in the desired culture. What that tells me is that you, the people who came to this conference, are focused on creativity, you're focused on well-being. And that is what you want to see in the educational system. Now, these are just the top 10 values here, and you see many of them are potentially limiting. If we add up all of the votes for the potentially limiting values, and they occur at the first 3 levels of consciousness, we have entropy of 68%. What is entropy? It's the degree of dysfunction in the system. Man, this is terrible. We mapped the values of Iceland in 2008 in September, and they had entropy at 54%. This is the leading democratic nation in the world. They had entropy at 54%. I couldn't believe it. I went there and I said, if you were an organization, you'd be going bankrupt about now. 2 weeks later, Iceland went bankrupt because of this dysfunction. The sad thing is, nobody ever invites me now. Okay, now, you all had votes. And in the current culture, what you see in the current system, 4 of you said it was actually child-centered, whereas 118 said in the desired culture. So this is what we call a values jump. And creativity, a values jump. And the importance of play, a large values jump. So you see here are the 4 value jumps. And you see how, like a laser, we focused in on what are the issues. And what we see is we want more child-centeredness, more creativity, and more importance of play. Of course, you've got all of these other value jumps here, but these are the top three. You can imagine when we do this in an organization, and I'll show you what it's like in a school in a moment, it really focuses people's attention on, well, what do we need to do to improve performance? Now, we just did the survey for here, for UK, but with a similar conference in America not so long ago, we got similar results. Look at this. Bureaucracy. This is what values do you see in the school system? Bureaucracy, authoritarian, short-term focus, cost reduction, blame, etc., etc., etc. So this is not just a UK problem. I believe it's a worldwide problem. And the problem is that it is impacting a whole generation of people all over the world. So anything that you can do to lead the way will be important. So we also ask you these questions. Should we be asking the education system to fit the needs of children, or should we be asking the children to fit the needs of the education system? Well, there you go. There were 10 people who said, yes, children should fit the needs of the education system. Well, that's fine. There's a new conversation between these 10 and 167 just to see what that story is. Does the current education system support the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual needs of the children? Well, here are the results for the physical. Actually, on the left-hand side, 1 is an outright no, and 10 is an outright yes, and 1 to 10 is somewhere in between. And it's at the lower end. But it's not that bad considering when you look at the emotional needs. And wait while we get to the spiritual needs. Well, the mental needs are very much similar to the emotional needs in terms of what children experience. But when you get to the spiritual needs, there's a resounding no. We're not meeting the spiritual needs of our children. At least, this is what you have said. And of course, all of you are coming from a special system. We all look at the world through the filter of our beliefs, but here you are with your beliefs looking at this, and this is what you're seeing. Not a great story. And this is the whole thing put together. Physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. To the degree to which we're meeting the needs, no, heavy no on the spiritual, less so on the physical. In other words, kids are getting some exercise probably, somewhere. Probably not out in the woods, not out in those beautiful places we just saw earlier. Okay, so that's enough about that. And now I want to show you how you can use this methodology for mapping the values of a school. What does a values-centered school look like? Well, here you've got it. This is the teaching staff. They ask the question, what are your personal values? What values do you see in your school? What values would you like to see in the school? The first thing to notice is no white dots. This is a positive example. I can give you less positive examples. Now, this is a school 11 to 18, and I chose that because we actually can ask children also to participate. We've got plenty of examples of I've been living in America for 24 years. First grade, second grade, whatever you call it, the kindergarten. And we've got plenty of examples of for primary education. That's what we call it. So these are the 115 staff. This is who they are. They like to have humor and fun. 52 said that. They're committed. They're caring. They're enthusiastic. They focus on family and creativity and making a difference. Really a very nice set of values, focused at relationships at level 2 and at that sense of internal cohesion, finding meaning and purpose in life. And this is what they saw in their school. I considered this to be pretty good. A very high level of this transformation consciousness, and we want to be, this is like continuous learning and things like that. This is where we want to be in our schools. Everyone is a learner, continuous improvement, accountability, academic excellence, passion for learning. These orange values are values that the people see in the school, and they're also desired. So in other words, we've got 5 matching values between the current culture and the desired culture, and this is excellent. However, if we go over here to the desired culture, We see balanced homework showing up as a value which is not in the current culture. In other words, some of these staff are feeling overwrought, probably doing long hours. But also we see creativity and commitment showing up in the desired culture. They're not in the top 10 of this current culture, and this would be an important new conversation to have in this school. What's happened to creativity and commitment? And well-being is also not in the top 10, along with open communication. However, this is quite a good result, and so the level of cultural entropy in that particular school is quite low. But here you have the value jump, so of the teaching staff. 2 said balanced homework was in the current culture, 48 said it was desirable. That was the biggest value jump. So for the teaching staff, trying to find balance in their lives will be really important in this particular school. Now here's the non-teaching staff. Relatively similar result with 6 matching values between the current culture and the desired culture. I won't go into detail, you've got the idea. And now the students. Now this is really unusual to be able to have a values assessment where the children themselves can actually contribute. And this is what they said. And in fact, the results are quite good, except we have got 1 limiting value. Students, am I looking 1152? Okay. Control, there we are. That's that limiting value right there. Okay, even in this great school, there's a little bit too much control going on for them. But on the whole, it looks good because we've got 7 matching values between the current and desired culture. We've got 3 matching values between personal and current. And this is excellent. But here is something interesting. The kids are saying we want more honesty. We feel we have honesty in our personal lives. We don't see it happening in our school. So here's another important new conversation that takes place. And lastly, we can do the same thing with parents. So here are the results for the parents. Now the parents are a little bit divorced from the system, and hence they think it's the best thing since sliced bread. They've got 8 matching values between current and desired. They think, wow, we've picked the right school here. Anyhow, I'm only showing you this because what we have here is a methodology and a way of having new conversations we've never had before, which can transform the whole way the school works, the whole way the school system works, and even how the classroom works, because we have a version of this for kids. So these are the possibilities in front of you. And I think this is why Wendy got excited about this, because here we actually have a way of measuring the intangibles. And we are doing this work all over the world now, in 60 to 80 different countries. And it's because we've been able to put numbers to something that up to this point had never been able to be measured, and to have new conversations and to create transformation. And so I leave it there, and I just thank you for your attention. Thank you for inviting me. It was a real pleasure to be here, and you can count on my organization to support you in your endeavors and to support Flourish. So thank you so much.